My name is Janet Bell, and I'm with the TIPS team here with Edmonton Public Schools, and we're going to go through a process whereby you can make an attendance template to use with your students. In order to kind of play along, it would be helpful for you if you have notebook software on your computer to open up notebook software, and then you can follow along and go through the process yourself. One of the things that struck me when playing with Notebook is people tend to start using Notebook with grand ambitions of creating things like attendance templates to use with their kids. But the pressure that teachers have to get so much done in so little time ends up getting in the way. And so we end up having these grand ideas of what we'll do, but we don't actually follow through and do it. And yet another thing that has struck me through working with the software is that there are ways that we can leverage the work that other people have done before us, where people have saved their resources to the Smart Exchange website or elsewhere on the internet. So through leveraging their resources, and also by coming up with sensible processes ourselves that we can then leverage ourselves when we're doing things again. So what I mean by that is, let's say you have a class with 30 kids in it. If you were able to create just a single notebook page, which had all of those 30 students' names as separate names on that page, then that would be easy. It would be easier for you to just access that page anytime you needed all of those students' names for any process whatsoever, whether you're making a template for attendance or whether you're just moving names into into a grouping for some other purpose, such as into the random group picker tool in order to be able to make groups quickly on the fly when you're working in groups with your students. So we're going to go through the process of that today. I'm going to first of all share my screen with you. This template has been shared with you through the introductory page to this Hangout. So you'll see there's a posting at the top of the page that gives you this particular template. Once you're in the template, it goes through basically our play-by-play of the lesson. So here's our description. We would like to be able to go to Smart Exchange and find a Valentine's Day template, since 'tis the season, and then we'll make a reusable file of student names and explore the name splitter tool, and then we'll create a template from scratch, and then we'll explore the random group picker. So first of all, let's go to the Smart Exchange and take a look at their templates there. The quickest way to get to the Smart Exchange is to click in this little button at the top. It looks like a letter X, and you'll see that that will take you directly to the Smart Exchange. If you haven't used the Smart Exchange before, you should probably take a minute, either now or a little bit later when I give you some work time, to create an account there. It is a free account, and then you'll be able to go in under your own profile. The default too, you may find, is the default location is the United States. And if you change your default location to Canada, not only are we in Canada, but it also gives you access to more Canadian resources. So for example, if you're looking at notebook files that use currency, it'll use Canadian currency. Anyway, for now, we're just going to do a search, and we're going to write down Valentine's. And you'll see under just the word Valentine's, it says 63 results. There are some notebook lessons that are targeted to various grade levels. And then we do have a couple of attendance templates as well. There's a game, another lesson, another lesson. And so you'll be able to go in on your own time and look around. There were two templates that jumped out as I was browsing through. One is this one, where if I click to preview, you can download the template by clicking in here, and there are strawberries, and you move the strawberry. Each strawberry has a student's name on it, and you move the strawberry into the chocolate fountain. And what's actually happening, I feel like the magician spoiling the magic trick here, but what happens is this picture of the chocolate fountain is layered in front of the strawberries. And so all that happens is as you move the strawberry over one at a time, it just slips behind the chocolate fountain. So it's sort of in the fountain. So that's a very basic kind of a template where it's just click and drag something into a particular place. The other template that looked interesting to me was the one higher up. And this one, it says, let your arrow fly if you are here today. And so I'm going to download that one and you can see what it looks like. Okay. So this template says, let your arrow fly if you're here today. So let's say you're in class and you've gone up and made this full screen and your students come into the classroom. What they will do is, as Richard comes into the class, he clicks here and the arrow flies off. So they click, it flies off. And then, of course, the names that are left are the people who aren't in attendance. So we'll go back to our other screen. Now, this particular template is well put together. There's the actual page that you use here. There's a little explanation below, and in that explanation, it says that if you click on the Attachments tab, it actually links to a Word document that tells you how to create that template. So it's got those instructions built in. So if you need them, you can go there and follow those. But for now, let's just go in and play with it a little bit. Okay, so let's say I'm going to use this with my students. The challenge is I want to keep the animation and keep the heart and keep the title, but I want to change all of the names of all of the students. So the first thing I'll do, okay, in this particular template, they've actually locked everything. So I'm going to just go, okay, edit, select all locked objects. And then I'll click in one of these little locks. And say, unlock. Okay, now everything that was locked, which means kind of like pasted onto the page, is no longer pasted. So if I click on the title, I can move the title around now. It's not locked in place. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to lock the title in place. So lock in place, and same with this heart. Take that and lock in place. Now all my images are still there. So now what I'm going to do is select my images. There we go. Let's go. Now, each of these images, there is an arrow and there is a name, and they have been grouped together in separate groups. So you can see, for example, with the word Richard, that's like a single image with the arrow and the Richard put together. So I'm now going to click in this arrow, and I'm now going to go to group, and I'm going to ungroup all those images. So now every single arrow is separate and every single name is separate. I'm going to erase that little thing that I put in there. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to highlight each individual student name and replace it. So I'll say Samantha. I'll make that a little longer. And so I now go into each student's name and I replace it with the name of one of my students. So Samantha, oops, and so forth all the way through. Now, once I finish doing that all the way through, I then need to go into each section of two names like this and group it back together again. So that's clicking in that little arrow and going group and group like that, or move that Samantha over a little bit. Or I can group the name and the arrow together just by going Control and G. So instead of having to go little arrow group group, you go Control and G. Now, to do that for every single student in my class takes a lot of time. So if you wanted to go ahead and do it that way, maybe you're only going to use a template for Valentine's Day and it's just you don't mind doing that, then you can go ahead and do that. Now, let's say you have more students in your class than what we have here in our template. That's easy to fix. You just take, here we have Samantha that's grouped. So you would just take this and you could either clone it or infinite clone it. Infinite clone, just every time you drag it, it just creates another one for you like this. Or you could just copy paste it over and then you would ungroup those names and change them to the names that you would like to have in there. So that's how you make that template if you're typing in every student's name individually. But I have to tell you that that kind of repetitive work, to me, it's just time not very well spent, and it makes much more sense to be able to let the computer do the repetitive part of the work, and so that you can do the more creative part of the work. And so here's how you do that. And I'm just going to take you back to our original template. Okay, so we've done this. When you're using this file afterwards, you can see by clicking on Here's How, that takes you down to what we've just done. We've ungrouped the images. We found out that they needed to be unlocked as well. We've replaced each name with each one of our students' name. We've grouped them, Control G. Oh, I forgot the transition effect. The last thing you need to do is when you've unlocked them and ungrouped them and done all of that, you lose the transition effect. And so what I liked about this particular template is that when you click on the arrow, all of the arrows have the same transition effect. So all of those arrows just would fly out to the right-hand side of the screen. So let's make a reusable file of student names and explore the text splitter tool. And then here's how. The instructions are right here on your handout. We're going to type all of the student names into one text box. We're going to go to the gallery and open the text splitter tool. We're going to paste the group of names into that tool and split them into individual names. We're going to select them all at once, edit size, font, color, layout as desired, maybe tidy them up on the page a bit, and then we'll save them to the gallery for quick retrieval next time. So let's give that a try. So we'll use it just right in this file. I'll create a new page. And let's say that we're going to type all in one great big text box, a list of students. So I'm just going to randomly think of some names. We've got Mary, and we've got old-fashioned names. We've got John, and we've got Joe, J-O-E, and we've got Dina, and we've got Rachel, and we've got names, Kyle, K-Y-L-E, and I don't know, Andy. Okay, let's say this list of names goes on and on and on, like just on and on and on. I've got 30 names in my class. Now, these names are sitting here, but they're all as one group. So if I had to move them over, that's still a lot of work. But if I go to the gallery and I do a search for the text splitter tool, what you get is a tool that looks like this. And it's kind of an innocuous looking tool, but it does cool things. So in the text splitter tool, I can highlight, actually I don't highlight, I just take this box of names And I believe I just drag it over. Select, click, and drag. What I've done wrong, of course, I need to move it to the front. So I'll I'll click in the arrow, and I will go order to front. I probably should have put the text splitter down there first. Now if I move this in front, it automatically pops the names in there. And now all I have to do is click here where it says split words, and all of those words have been ejected from there as separate words. So now every student's name is separate. I could just take that group of names and I could just move each one into place over top of those arrows in that Valentine's template way quicker than writing everybody's name in those little tiny text boxes. Now, that's not going to work quite yet because the font isn't correct and the size isn't correct. So let's make it a smaller font. We'll go Arial Narrow, and let's make it, 10 is probably, too tiny. Let's make it 18. Okay, so now we have an 18 font. And now let's just organize them a little bit. So up at the top of Notebook 14, you'll see this little jigsaw for add-ons. And in there, we can organize things. So I'm going to organize them up and down, and I'm going to organize them a line left. Okay, so that looks a lot tidier. There's the names of all the students in my class. Now, what's interesting is we can do a couple of things here. If I go to my content at the top of the gallery, I can save in there. I can save files that I need to use from time and again. So I'm going to go to my pages, and down here, this is the page that I'm on. If I click in this little arrow here, I can say add page to gallery. And so now when I go to my content, I can look in my notebook files and pages, and by date, I can see right up on top here, here's the page that I've just saved. This is the page that we're on right now. And so not only, so not only have I saved the text splitter, but I've saved the names of my students. And if I wanted, I could delete that and just have those names saved. So now if I'm going to make an attendance template, if I'm going to edit one for my own use, I can just highlight all those names, go Control-C to copy them, and then I can go back to my other notebook file. Let's find it. Okay, so to recap, we took the whole page and we went Edit, Select All Locked Objects, and then we clicked in the little lock in the object and we said unlock. Then we clicked in the title and in the heart, and we locked those again. Lock in place. And then we did a big rectangle over all of the names. Come along. And then we ungrouped them. And then now I'm going to paste my other names and move them onto the heart so I can see them. And then these names, I'm just going to click on a name and I'm just going to hold down my Control key and click on all these names. And you can see if we were making this from scratch that it would take forever to click into each of these individually and then, whoops, and then type all their names. And don't let go of your Control key, because that's what I just did now. There's a bunch, delete, Control, click, click. Okay, so you get the idea. And then now I just easily just drag these names over. And because I have all of those names saved in my content, anytime I want to make a new attendance template, so perhaps I'm making one for Valentine's Day, another one for Easter, another one for springtime, as each of the seasons moves through, then it's just a matter of copy pasting my names over into my new template, getting rid of the old names, putting my names in, grouping these up again as individuals just by going Control G on each grouping. And then once the groups are done, just going in and adding the transitions through the Properties tab, Object Animation, and in this case you can select them all at once and put in the fly out to the right, and you can make it fast or regular, and then your template is all done. If you've saved that list of student names as a page in the My Content section of your gallery, you can then also use those names with other tools within notebook software. So one such tool is the Random Group Selector. The Random Group Selector does what the title suggests. So if you have names of students in there, it'll select groups for you randomly, and you can take your names of your students, put them in that tool, and then you can take, like, not just do what the tool is supposed to do, but you can take that tool with the students' names in it and save that to My Content as well. So what that means is that anytime you need to create a random group, that's sitting there kind of like your little box of popsicle sticks always on the side for you to select on. So let's take a look at how to do that. So I need to make a group of students, and so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my gallery, and I'm going to open my page, which has the list of all the students on in my class, and I'm going to get rid of that. Now I'm going to take a look in the gallery for the random group selector, so I'll just search the word random. And in the interactive and multimedia part, I can go down to the random group picker, which is here. And let's move that over. So now all I need to do is move the name. Whoops. And again, I'm going to move these to the front. Little arrow, order, bring to front. Okay, so now I will just take each of the names of my students and I will just populate this group generator. And right now I'm working with a trackpad. If you have a mouse, it might go a little quicker. So you get the idea from these ones here. Now, now I can choose, do I want 2 groups? Would I like 3 groups, 4 groups? How many groups would I like? And you can go all the way down to 18 groups. So I would like to split these students into 3 groups. And so now I just say generate. And so automatically those students have been split into 3 groups. If I look at those groups, I need to shuffle them around for the next part of the assignment. I can click on regroup and it automatically does that. If you click on inject all groups, what that does is it pushes them out beneath in lines. So I can show you that too. So my groups, group 1, group 2, group 3 are just shown down the page like that. And I'm just going to zoom in to page width. There we go. So that's the random group selector. Now, let's say here I have all my students in this group, in this random group selector. So now if I'd like to save this in my content, I can just literally take the top of this page of this tool here, and I can just drag it over into my content like this. If I let go, then when I'm in my content, if I go to interactive and multimedia, you'll see I have a couple of random group pickers for a couple of different classes. So let's say I'm starting a new page, so that's clear. I can take this one and just put it here. So this is a class that I made the other day, and I can take this random group and put it beneath it here. Oh, that one is blank. Okay, and then I have this one here. This is the one I believe that I just made. I'll put that one on top. There we go. So there's the one that I just made. So now in any of my classes, if I want to make groups quickly, I can just click in generate for that class and this other class. Let's move that down. Actually, I'm going to delete it for now. And we'll delete this one too. And so I can delete groups in my other class as well. So that's how you use the random group picker. And if you find if you've got more than one class saved in here like this, you can always just click in here and change the title. So if this is period 2, and if this is period 3, that can be distinguished. And now suddenly anytime you need to make a group, that's something you can do quickly and easily. Every time you want to make an attendance template, you can do that quickly and easily. And all because you've also created in my content, you've created that file with your students' names on it here. Or here's one I've made for another class, which you can then just drag into any template that you'd like to make. Now, the one thing we haven't talked about today is creating a template from scratch. If you'd like to create a template from scratch, it's quick and easy to do using really the same techniques that we used before. So if you have a blank page, the one thing just to remember is the order of objects. So if you start with your background, there are lots of backgrounds already in notebook software. So you can see backgrounds and themes, 113 of them. So you can just look through what's already available to you in the gallery, and you can quickly choose a background. Let's, for example, quickly find one with, here we go, one with hearts for a Valentine's theme. And then maybe I'd like to put some hearts for the students. So maybe we'll do a Cupid. I can search for Cupid, and there's a little Cupid. And so maybe we can have a Cupid fly up the screen for each student. So I'm going to just make this smaller, maybe like that. And now I can just make an infinite cloner, or I could just copy it onto my clipboard. And it's very quick now for me to make numerous Cupids around the page that I can choose to fly away. So once I've got my objects there, I then choose my names. And if I've made my names in my content, then that's a quick thing to do as well. So I'm just going to take the names. I'm going to go Control Copy, go back to find my page again. Pages, where did I hide that page just now? There it is. And I'm going to paste my names on the page. I'm going to select them all, make them red and smaller. Okay, I'm going to select them. I'm going to go to Properties this way. Okay, we'll make it red. And I'm going to make my font a little bit smaller. And now I can just move each of these onto each of the hearts. Now, in the template that we played with before, all of those arrows went off in a single direction. But what I'd like to do with these is I'd like them to fly off in different directions. So that's part of the fun of it, right? Is which way is it going to go? So once I have these ordered, I'm going to take each pair of name and Cupid and go Control G to group them. Control G. Try that one again. Oh, right, that's not joining because that was my infinite cloner one. Take that off, now it'll work. And Control G. Okay, so for each one of these, instead of selecting them all at once as before and doing the object animation fly off to the right, I'm going to select them one at a time and go Object Animation. I'm going to have it fly out at normal when the object is clicked, and each one will be in a different direction. So this one I'll go top left. This one I'll say fly out and we'll go top right. This one type fly out left. This one fly out top right. This one, so that'll go fly out top. Two more to go. Fly out, and I'll make that one go right. And then last but not least, have it fly out, and we'll have it go to the bottom left. Okay, so now if I go full screen, actually I'm going to leave it like this in case it disappears off your screen. Now, if I click on each of these, they will fly off. So the student comes in, there's Joe, Maddie, Arwan, Matt, and Kelsey. Looks like everybody's here today. So it's 4:30. You'll see as we went through the process, hopefully you've picked up some tips to streamline your use of notebook software, particularly by keeping some templates that are filled in your My Content already, whether for making groups or making templates, attendance templates. Hopefully you've got a process down to go and download ready-made items from Smart Exchange and be able to manipulate those to make them your own. And last but not least, and you'll see how quickly it took at the end for it to work. So last but not least, we were able to create a template from scratch, and it really wasn't that much work in the end, being able to use, being able to leverage the techniques that we had been practicing earlier in the session. So I hope that's useful for you. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me, and I'm happy to help you. Thanks. Thanks for attending. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.